So, if you thought January's patch was good, wait till you see what's coming next. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, how are we getting on? So, we have a new Inside the Vault blog post from Bethesda today, and it was teased earlier in the week by Jeff Gardner, project lead, saying he was very much looking forward to sharing what's coming next for Fallout. And we're about to see why, because, my god, this looks like a second sublime patch lined up for the start of the year. So, in 76 terms at least, the year seems to be off to a roaring start. There is some awesome stuff in here. So, let's take a look, shall we? So, Inside the Vault, special loadouts, camp slots, and more coming to the PTS. So all this stuff's going to go on the public test server and be tested out before, obviously, the patch at the end of the month, but there is some stuff we've been asking for a long time, and Bethesda have not just delivered, they've kind of over-delivered in this way, which is really, really cool. Some awesome stuff here that we're going to take a look at and have a little bit of a dive into and a think about, because there's some really, really cool stuff here. So, welcome back. This week we're sharing an inside look at our next update for Fallout 76, including new features and improvements that are on their way to the public test server at the end of the week. End of next week, rather. We've also included details of our first script surplus event, which begins today, so that's the event running through this weekend. So, new features coming to the PTS. As I say, this is stuff that is really, really exciting and really cool. We've just released our inventory update a few days ago. We're already looking to bring our next game update to the public test server as early as next Friday, February the 5th. As usual, that will be just for players who are playing via Bethesda Net on PC. That's basically the only setup I've got for PTS at the moment, but for those who are, jump in, take a look, there's some really cool stuff. We're excited to share an overview of the new features and improvements we're planning to include in that update, and we hope as many of you as possible will join us for some playtesting and feedback in the PTS. So, special loadouts. And emphasis on special here because it is taking the Perk Loadouts concept that we've all wanted since not too long after the game first launched and kind of doubling down on it. Basically, this is going to amount to completely changing your character's build, not on the fly, but pretty close to it. You'll be able to fully respec your character more or less whenever you want. You have to return to your camp to do it, or a train station or so on, but there's going to be nothing stopping you going and doing that, which is absolutely awesome. It's very, very cool and way beyond what we were expecting, so fantastic. So we've got a first look at basically the screen, the UI for this new feature, special loadouts. As we see the general gist of it, you can have multiple loadouts. That's kind of the point. You can change both your perk list that we have attached to it. A little more information on there might be handy, because recognizing it just off the pictures, so-so, but in terms of that, you can also change all of your special points as well, or your special point allocations, which is really, really cool. So, one of the most common requests we've seen from the community is a way to completely reset a character's special attributes so that it's quicker and easier to overhaul your build. We hear you, and starting at level 25, your characters will gain access to special loadouts, which offer a brand new ability to reboot all of your special points for free whenever you're in your camp. This will allow you to create and save custom special point allocations and perk card assignments and then switch between them. So, not just switching out your perks within your build, but literally switching out your entire build on the go. Or at least in your camp, which is more than enough, I think. Not being able to do it mid-combat is... I mean, I'm sure we'd like that, but at the same time, I think this is absolutely fine and there's no complaints there. Starting at level 25, that's an odd one. My guess here is... sort of twofold. Firstly, there's not a great deal of point in doing it earlier than that. You won't have a vast amount of points to switch around or perks to move about either, so basically I think that's part of the reason for starting in 25. I think the other reason is kind of considering new players. If you look at ESO as a really good example, when you start that game off as a new player, it is hella confusing. It doesn't explain things very well, it throws an awfully large amount of stuff at you, and it's kind of overwhelming. At least in my experience anyway, and I think by pushing this a little further down the line, i.e. to level 25, it'll avoid that to some degree. It'll allow brand new players to sort of find their feet a little bit before getting a massive dump of extra mechanics and information on their head that would just throw them off. So, but for most of us, our character's obviously way beyond level 25, particularly if you've got a long-standing character. You basically won't need now to use multiple character slots, because you'll just be able to do everything on the one character, assuming you've got the equipment to back it up with. You know, the appropriate weapons. So if you want to have a character who has both a pistol build and a heavy gunner build, you will need to have probably both sets of perk cards available. I think you'd need to hold on to them and then swap them out as opposed to sort of reclaiming them each time. So you'll wind up with a big bit built up, but we'll see. But you'll be able to do that and basically completely change your character as you go. So I know a few of us, myself included, have said, well, we'd like to see more character slots available. This kind of eliminates the need, or at least partially anyway, which is really, really cool on that front as well. So it saves that angle as well. It means you can just literally use that one character and change up their playstyle for whatever you happen to be doing. Looking at my main guy, who is currently set up as a commando, a full health commando build, and there's room for improvements perhaps, but yeah, it's a pretty solid build. When I get into, say, daily ops, which we'll be looking at more at in a moment, he can cope with most of them, but a couple of the setups for daily ops end up being kind of overwhelming for the character. So basically, I'll be able to switch it out and switch him to a heavy gunner power armor build just to go and do the daily ops, which tend to be easier to run solo, which is the way I prefer to do it. So things like that are just going to mean so much more flexibility and so much more adaptability for solo players as well, which is really, really cool. I'm liking this a lot. I'm very enthusiastic. Can you tell? So this is really, really cool. So to swap your loadouts, edit your perk cards or your special points, simply visit a punch card machine. Interesting choice, but okay. You'll be able to build a punch card machine in your camp and find them at train stations around Appalachia so you can make changes while you're on the go. Initially, players will gain access to 2 special loadouts per character, and we're exploring additional ways to unlock more loadouts in future, such as through the Atomic Shop. So, here we are, 2 loadouts initially, and probably paid if you want more. That's less good. I guess I wasn't expecting them to have a limitless number of loadouts, and 2 is a solid start. It depends how much they're going to charge for additional loadouts. Yeah, I'm not sure why they're doing this, apart from generally continuing to fund the game. I'm not entirely keen on the idea of putting extra loadouts in the Atomic Shop. Again, it depends how much they're going to charge for it as well. I'm not quite sure what they're angling towards here, what they're doing, and why they're doing that. I have some mixed feelings on that. That's kind of put a little sting in the tail, which is sad. But as a concept, definitely like it a very great deal. I'll have to have a bit more of a think and see what I reckon on putting it in the Atomic Shop as to why they're doing it. Obviously, part of it's just going to be they need to continue to generate revenue. The game's constantly draining money, so they need to bring it back in again somehow. So that'll be a big part of it. But beyond that, I wonder if there's other things going on as well. Still, all in all, a really cool feature, and I'm definitely going to have a look at that on my PTS. As to whether or not I'll make a video on it, we'll see. I'll have a look on the PTS and see if it's actually, anything more to add once we actually got my hands on it, So we'll see what we have to say there. So, point number 2, camp slots. This was totally out of left field, at least as far as I'm concerned. Wasn't expecting to see this at all. Multiple camps for the same character. Kinda. Which is really, really cool, and I think is a good way of doing it. It maintains the kind of current setup with camps, but also allows you to switch things up on the same character and not have to destroy your work, which is really, really cool. Again, I imagine there's going to be a limited number, but very, very cool. So, it can be tough to decide between building a brand new home or sticking with your current camp creation, because you can only have one at a time, as it stands. Going forward, you won't have to choose whether to open a Wasteland B&B, fortify a free state outpost, or run your own red rocket station. Instead, camp slots will help you do it all. Your characters will be able to build multiple different camps, which you can kind of do with the blueprinting system, although placing them is kind of a pain in the neck. This will solve that problem. Each with its own location, build budget, custom name, and even a unique map icon. Okay, that's fun. But whilst you will only be able to have one camp active at a time, you can easily switch among them using a new Camp Builds widget on your camp icons or your camp icons on the map. So, basically, more than one camp at a time. You'll only have one active at a time. It'll unbuild effectively and store your camp if you choose to initialize another one, I suppose. So you could have one camp up in the mire, one down in the forest, and decide you want to be focused on the one in the forest, maybe doing stuff in that area, just feel like a change, whatever. You choose to activate that camp. The other one will store itself away as if it were not on that server, and you carry on about your business using the other camp. Obviously, from the look of things, it will mean stash boxes and the like will stay the same. There's a bit more details here that we'll have a look at in a moment on that. But they're also going to link your vendors across them, so you won't have to worry about what you're selling in one camp not being available in another, things like that. So that's really, really cool. It basically means you can have multiple camps, change them up whenever you like. You don't have to destroy your previous creation, and you can effectively set up a new home base in a new area on the fly without having to completely rebuild or fight with the blueprint system, which is a bane of my life in general. I'm not a fan of it, but obviously we know it has some serious shortcomings, so this should really work around that in a really cool way. So you're not going to be picking it up and moving it, but you could have a whole new camp there. It kind of strikes that happy medium for both those who like camp building and those who are not such big fans as well can still take advantage of it. You just build something simple and switch between the various simple options. So that's a really, really cool idea. Further, managing the items you want to sell has never been easier because your vending machine will now feature a large pool of item slots that are shared for every instance across all of your camps. Display cases, however, will be separate per camp, allowing you to showcase different items in each one. So there we go. Basically, your vendors will go across all camps, whereas your display cases will be unique to each one, so you can decorate them whatever way you like. Really well done. Assuming this works the way it's intended, that should be spot on, in short. That's exactly what we'd want. There's a slight implication here that your vending machines will now feature a large pool of item slots, is the line they're using. I'm interested to see if that means we're going to get a larger number of slots available, because currently we have 30 slots per machine, up to 4 machines, so I'm wondering if that number's going to increase with this particular update or not. Be interesting to see. Don't foresee that being particularly challenging for them to do, so yeah, fingers crossed that means you can sell even more, put more stuff in. It's also worth bearing in mind with this, and of course with the special loadouts that we talked about before, that if you're going to have multiple builds, you will want to not fill that new stash size increase that we had this week too quickly, because you might want to keep the gear for those separate builds in your stash when you're on the other build, you know? If you've got a heavy gunner and you're on that build, but you've also got a sniper, you might want to keep your sniper in the stash. So, something to think about for the month ahead, given that this is on the horizon. What else have we got? So, along with these changes, we're also working to enable display cases in shelters so that you can have even more opportunities to show off your loot. We're still implementing some of this vending and display functionality, so changes may arrive after the PTS has already begun. So, a little point to keep in mind there that this is not yet up and running, at least the vending machines and the display case functionality. They're working on it. Basically, the point I would take away from this is they're probably confident that they can pull it off and have it working and so on. They just haven't done it yet. They're working on it. But this means it's also not set in stone, so it's theoretically possible that somewhere in the final hurdles, their plan here may not work out. Hopefully it does, and I'm sure they think it does, otherwise they wouldn't mention it at all. But the nature of development is some things don't work out, so something to bear in mind. It's conceivably possible that on down the line this may not materialise, in which case it wouldn't be a case of Bethesda telling porkies, it would just be a case of that's the nature of development. But, so something to keep in mind, but I guess they're reasonably confident, so that's very, very cool. So hopefully extra camps and ability to switch between them, coupled with perk loadouts, those two things go together quite well, so really, really cool, and definitely something we're all looking forward to, I think. Certainly it's things we've been asking for a while, and some going above and beyond there as well on Bethesda's part, so very, very impressed with this so far. But this is not the end. We have more cool stuff that we have been asking for, and a few bits and pieces we haven't that are really, really cool, and I'm really liking the look of as well. So, number one of which is Daily Ops expansion. I'm sure we're all desperately ready to see some changes to Daily Ops, some new types of Daily Ops, some new locations and things, all of which are coming, and it's also going to accommodate builds other than the ones that are best suited to the current one. So if you've been annoyed with Daily Ops because you're a stealth build and it doesn't work in the current setup, not so anymore. Obviously the existing ones will still be there, but they're bringing in ones that will actually be quite well suited to a stealth build. So let's have a look. Our first expansion for Daily Ops brings a major update to a feature that nearly doubles the amount of randomized content that is currently available. Great, more variety, love it. To begin, you will be able to dive into an all-new decryption game mode, in which you and your teammate will hunt down enemy code carriers in order to disable radio interceptors for Vernon Dodge. Enemies in decryption will have extra deadly attacks that will bypass your armor resistances, so you may want to employ stealthier tactics to take them down rather than a brute force approach. So there we go, that flips the no stealth approach right on its head. In fact, we'll favour it, which is interesting. Hunt down enemy code carriers in order to disable radio interceptors. It sounds like it's going to be kind of similar to what's there already, but kind of not. The idea will be hunt down these specific enemies, Take it down and get the item, which is probably a bit like the nuclear silo code pieces that you get off Scorched and Feral Officers. I'm guessing something that'll look a bit like that. Then you run over to a device somewhat similar to the uplinks and use this code device to disable it. It'll be interesting to see how that actually works out and how it's going to work with timing and things like that. Maybe you have to get several code carriers enabled in order to disable the jammers, whatever form they may take. So that should be pretty interesting. Certainly going to change things up. So the shift towards a stealthy approach will certainly suit a lot of players. Hopefully it will mean that those of us like my archer character should have a bit more facility, and obviously stealth snipers the like. So that should be interesting. Plus, it'll be a change, so that would be cool. As to how viable it will be for solo runs, I think it'll take us a little while to figure out what's going on and how that works. But that time to figure it out is also going to apply to the new locations that they're including, of which there are 2. So 2 more options for where the daily ops can take place. And those will be Vault 96 and the Watoga Raider Arena. So very, very cool. Vault 96 obviously being an entirely new location. The Watoga Raider Arena, that figures in the Wastelanders Raider side questline. It's where you go with Johnny Weston, 2 guns himself. So that's a cool location. Good to see that getting a bit more use. And I think a lot of us are keen to see what's inside Vault 96 and what theme they've gone for and the style. It'll be very interesting. Obviously, we'll be able to get in there and have a look around outside the daily ops as well. So definitely going to be doing that. It's very, very cool. Might have to make a video on that if nothing else. So yeah, very interesting. Vault 96 is down at the bottom end of the Savage Divide for those who aren't familiar with it. And it has been there since the game launched. But we've never been able to get inside. There's a couple of other vaults as well that meet that criteria. So still looking forward to finding out what's in those, but having a new one, seeing what's in there, seeing what happened, where the inhabitants are, and what has become of them is definitely an exciting prospect. So look out for that one. So you'll battle new enemies such as Scorched, Mothman Cultist, and even face down new mutations like enemy groups that can heal each other. Yikes! Enemies that create toxic hazards on death, and more. So I'd be interested to hear what those more are. But yeah, having new enemy types is good. That means facing off against the bleeding robots less often, which is welcome. Scorch should probably be comparable to the Blood Eagles in terms of their challenge. Same with the Mothman Cultists, so both of those is adding 2 somewhat more easy opponents to take down, mostly. So hopefully that means those of us who solo will have a little bit more flexibility as well, and more of those solo runs that are viable. So very cool. New mutations, yeah. Interested to see about those. Enemies healing each other, that's going to be annoying, but doable. Enemies that create toxic hazards on death, again, annoying but doable, but that's kind of the point. It's supposed to be an obstacle to progression. That's the point. That's like literally why you have combat in a game. So yeah, cool. And we'll add a new mode, locations, enemies, and mutations to the existing randomized pool, so you'll always have a fresh challenge to conquer. Cool. So about what you'd expect there. Of course, there will also be new rewards for your efforts, like new weapon plans and loot, so be sure to keep some room in your inventory. So, adding to the existing pool at the end of the month, so if you're wanting to grind them out, maybe now is the time to dive in and do the current setup and try and grind out a few more of those plans, especially seeing as every time you hit Elder rank now, you should get a rare reward, so that's already been improved. Very cool. So, beyond daily ops, we have aim assist. For those who prefer controllers who are on consoles, we're adding a new aim assist setting to help players who use controllers more easily snap their crosshairs to enemies to stay on target when aiming down the sights with ranged weapons. We introduced aim assist in a previous PTS, but we've made some tweaks since then and would love to hear what you think. So, not something I'll be using as I use mouse and keyboard, but for those of you who favour a controller, that should make hitting your target that little bit easier. It's a fairly standard practice, so kind of surprising it's not there already, but hopefully that should make life a little bit more smooth for those who favour a controller. Batch crafting. This is very cool. Definitely a little quality of life change that is going to make, I think, everybody's life a little bit better, particularly if you're doing crafting ammo or food or things like that. So, if you've ever needed to grill up a bunch of rat stag meat, you know, it can take some time and a lot of button presses to get through your stockpile. In our next update, we're adding crafting sliders to all workbench menus so that you can assemble, forge, cook, or manufacture an entire stack of an item all at once. All you will need to do is move the slider to the number that you want to craft before you hit confirm. About what you'd expect. One thing they're not doing here that I would definitely like to see them doing is enabling you to type in the number you want rather than using a slider. It's particularly annoying at the moment for vending machines because you've got that 30,000 range for setting a price. And using a slider to do that is a right pain in the neck, especially when I've got a handy keyboard in front of me. For those who use controls or on consoles, there's workarounds for that. There are typing mechanics already built into consoles, so why not take advantage of them? There's times when that would definitely be helpful, and I think it would be a really good addition to the UI. So hopefully Bethesda will take that on board and do something with that at some point, because I would love that, and it's so annoying at the moment. But batch crafting, very, very cool. World activity menu updates. So that's the little world tracker that's in the bottom corner of your map screen at the moment. Well, it'll be down there for you guys. That's where we find the daily ops at the moment. They're going to make better use of it, which is cool. We're expanding on the world activity menu to include much more than daily ops. Going forward, you'll find it includes active nuke zones. Cool. Nearby player vending machines. Neither here nor there, really. I think if you're looking for them, you're looking for them, so it probably doesn't matter that much. And events, which is definitely a logical thing to be including in it, giving you an easy way to find and fast travel to those activities. I'm going to go out on a limb and guess, when they're talking about events, they're talking about the ones with the exclamation point, so they're kind of world events, the big ones, like Line in the Sand, stuff like that, which will be handy because those are the ones that drop gold bullion, and if you're still chasing, for example, the Secret Service armor like me, knowing when those events spawn and being able to find them a bit more easily, nice little quality of life change. Approve. Another good addition. So here's one that I have two schools of thought on. Melee attack improvements. On the surface, yes please. But beyond that, we'll see how it works out. We've read some feedback from the Fallout 76 community that melee attacks could use a tune-up. Damn skippy they could. We agree, and we've made some tweaks and squished a few bugs. Going forward, your hacks, slashes, smashes and chops should feel a little more fluid and hit more reliably. Okay. Good. Definitely want to see that. I want to see the opposite too. And that is particularly, in fact, even more so than what they're talking about here, what I would like to see. There is nothing more annoying than watching some enemy swing their weapon at you, baseball bat, board, super sledge, whatever it may be, watching that weapon in first person swing past the front of your face, i.e. quite clearly not hitting you, and you still take damage. Like, look, if I can see that thing go past my face, it did not hit me, you know? Let's not have this, so that's what I'd like to see fixed. It could be the bug they're referring to, or one of the bugs they're referring to, in which case, that'd be great. But I'm more keen to see that sorted than the opposite. Because obviously, if I can see the weapon go past my face in first person, yeah, not hit me. That's kind of how melee combat works. So, fingers crossed on that. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic, but improvements are always welcome in general, but fingers crossed that's going to be on there as well. So, we hope you've enjoyed this overview of what's next for Fallout 76. If you own a PC copy of the game through Bethesda.net, as we mentioned before, we'd love to have you join us on the PTS next week to try out everything mentioned above, post feedback and report bugs. Stay tuned for additional PTS details in our next Inside the Vault, which they have neglected to mention when that might be. I'm going to go it's 50-50 for next week at the moment. We'll see. Obviously, I'll be covering it when it comes out. So, last but not least, Script Surplus Weekend. That's this weekend. Basically, looks like it's going to work much the same way as the Double Caps thing did last weekend. Calling all legendary hunters. A little later today, we're kicking off our first Script Surplus Weekend, which doubles the total amount of legendary script available from legendary exchange machines per day. Ugh, crikey, tongue twisters. So, yes, as predicted, much like having vendors with double the amount of caps, this time your legendary script machines will have double the amount of script, in this case 300, so you'll be able to turn in twice as many legendary weapons, clear out your stash full of that rubbish a little bit quicker, and far more more quickly as well. So if you're looking to grind out that script for that ideal legendary weapon, or those legendary modules to craft the stuff from the Wastelanders update, you'll be able to do that with a little more facility, which is very, very cool. Which reminds me, I really need to put my legendary modules into my stash. Now I've got the space to do it. So that is running through from today, January the 28th, at 12 PM Eastern Time, through to February the 1st, which I'm going to guess will be Monday. Let's double check. Yes, Monday at, again, 12 PM Eastern Time, which is 5 PM GMT. So, there we have it. Some really cool stuff coming in the next patch. That little thing with the extra perk loadouts being in the atomic shop, that's kind of a little bit of a downer. Not blown away by that. In a sense, I actually don't mind the concept, but I think saying you can have 2 loadouts and then you have to buy them is too soon. Make it 3 or 5 and then buy beyond that. That I would think would be a better balance to strike. I think it just kicks in a bit too soon. I think that's what I'm feeling right now. Again, I'll have to think about it some more. But, nonetheless, special loadouts, being able to completely respec your character as you go, absolutely bloody brilliant. New daily ops, great. Additional camps, being able to pick and choose which one you have active at a time. That's fantastic as well. Means I can keep building and not have to worry about destroying the last one that I really like so quickly. Definitely a bugbear of mine. And obviously the further additions for other players. It kind of works around the whole survival tent thing. For those who don't have Fallout first, you can set camps up in different areas and it won't be quite as flexible as a survival tent is. But you'll be able to basically set your base camp closer to where you want to move and where you want to explore and engage in events and, you know, the region you're in. So, really, really good addition there. Plus, a whole host of other little bits and pieces which are very, very cool. So, yeah, very, very impressed. As I said at the start, the last update was great. Added some much-needed features, some really nice quality of life changes. Very, very cool. Very happy about it. Plus, the new Valentine's event that was running at the moment. Go and clobber things with a bunch of roses. That's very, very fun. All good starts to the year, and then adding this on top of it, absolutely brilliant. Bethesda starting 2021 with definitely a bang and on very much on the right foot. Obviously, the million-dollar question that this does leave open is content, as in story and new quests and stuff like that. This stuff is probably taking up quite a bit of their time to do. So is that going to push things further back with new content releases? Probably a little bit. I'm guessing we'll get the next piece of the Brotherhood of Steel storyline probably March. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's most likely end of quarter one. Makes sense. That does also explain the whole Brotherhood thing lasting supposedly through the summer as well, because if they sort of one update every 3 months or so with quality of life and feature updates like this in between, that seems more consistent with the way they're going. It kind of makes sense. Obviously, there's the juggling the fact there's probably sub 100 people working on the game as well, so having big things happening every month is a little unrealistic given the staff numbers available. So it is what it is, I suppose, is where I'm going with that. That's the situation the game's in. But yeah, we're interested to see what the next story-based content is going to be. Because this stuff's great. It's going to make doing the stuff we're already doing much more fun. And, you know, new daily ops is going to make that more interesting as well. But obviously we want story. We want something meatier content to sink our teeth into, to use a slightly gross analogy, I suppose. But you know what I'm getting at. That would be really, really cool. That's what we're looking for next. But I'm certainly not complaining. I'm very, very happy with this start to the year. If they do drop story-based content as update number 3, that would be about right and about as solid as we can expect. And you know, this would be the good rhythm. If they can keep this kind of a rhythm for the rest of the year, that great. I'm very happy to see that. So that's my sense so far. Would like to see that atom limit, or the point at which you have to start buying new loadouts, pushed further back so you can get more for free. I think that's the biggest downer on this particular thing. But beyond that, yeah, really, really impressed. Really good start. Some really cool stuff. Great start to the year. So very happy to see that. But I'm repeating myself now, so time to wrap up. So thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed, found this useful and informative. If you did, please do hit those buttons for me. It was very, very much appreciated. Likes and subs very, very much help the channel out. We're chasing 10k, so if you haven't already, you know, maybe hit that little red button. It'd be very much appreciated. Social media links, merch store, and channel memberships all available down below the video if you're interested in supporting the channel in that way. It's very, very much appreciated as well. Some very, very cool stuff down there that you'll enjoy checking out, so I do hope you do that. And live streams continuing as well. Been a bit hit and miss this week because my sleeping pattern is non-existent, so jumping back into that in the next couple of days, so do join us for those. For now, I will say thank you very much for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.